Well, cool. Well, Sean, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. We just love if you introduce yourself, kind of like what you do, what you're about, and we'll take things from there.
Yeah, sounds good, Justin. Appreciate it, man. Long time. It's great to be on here and just talking about all things wellness, peak performance. We have a lot of alignment, so I'm stoked to dig in. So yeah, I'm Sean Pritchard. I'm the founder of a wellness company and peak performance company called Inhabit, and I've had a really interesting and deep relationship with wellness for a long time. Just back to the origin story, when I was in college, I was struggling with anxiety and depression, and that's where I originally found meditation, and it was incredibly helpful. And that just sent me down a very deep rabbit hole into all things breath work, cold exposure. I did some personal training in college, and so I was able to draw in some of those learnings around the body, and just really started to explore what it was, what are the key practices that helps to elevate our mental and physical health, and then also enhance our performance in whatever it is that we're doing. So I created this training method called the Inhabit method, and it blends a number of those practices together. And I really was applying this when I was in tech sales. You're for your business as well. About sales. That it can be a grind, man. You have to deal with rejection. You have to actively listen. You have to manage stress. And so when I was cold calling, when I was first getting into tech sales, I was like, wow, man, this is a stressful job, and I need to be able to perform at a high level in an environment where like money's candidly on the line. So I was using breath work and meditation and nutrition and movement as a way to not only to elevate my performance and do better on my calls, but I was noticing that I was happier, that I had better relationships with myself and other people. And I was like, wow, I think something may be here. So pandemic hits, digging into the data, looking at the suicide, depression, and anxiety rates in America and across the world, and just felt a calling, man, to make that jump and to go to my passion, which you know all about. So here I am, dude. I've been in this for a little over 2 years. And it's been a really fun ride, and we're starting to get some good momentum now. So I'm stoked on it.
Dude, that is awesome, man. It's so funny you came from a sales background.
Yeah,
That's interesting, because that's the same background I have, doing sales last several years. And then you said, so like, what was like the first thing that you came across that started to get you into like breath? Was it Wim Hof, or was it like what's
yes.
okay?
Yeah, 5 years ago, man, I went down to LA, obviously, and hung out with my brother, and he was living at the time with some friends, and they were really into breath work, and he found the Wim Hof method, and he was like, dude, I know you're into meditation. There's something really incredible here, and just like gave me his computer, and I like laid down, went through the breath work, did my first cold shower, and I was like, yo, like this was sweet. And I just felt electric, man. I felt clear, and that started the journey. And then at that time, I had just transitioned into tech sales, and I was having to drive an hour and a half every morning from Sonoma down to San Francisco. And I would take a cold shower and do breath work in the morning. And that was just like me being like leaning into that I'm shifting careers, new identity change, having to like really grind. And I use that in the morning, every morning, to drive myself. And that got that morning routine down. And that was like a key component. And then I read the book Breath. I don't know if you ever read that, by James Nestor. Highly influential figure in my life. James wrote this incredible book diving into all the different modalities around breath work, and also the human story about how the breath has played such an interesting role in even the development of our anatomy. So over the last 1,000 to 2,000 years, we've switched to actually breathing more through the nose to more through the mouth. And anatomically, it's actually changed the structure of our skull. And he learned this by going down into the catacombs in France. And he studied human skulls. And there are all these health benefits from breathing properly. And he did in the book, man, this is wild. So he taped his nose shut for 10 days. And we can get into around the power of proper breathing. I give you some context here, and I'll explain why this is relevant. But so for 10 days, he taped his nose shut, only was doing mouth breathing. And he was an athlete, really good shape, runner, and he got sick. His face started to sink in. He had chronic fatigue. He was struggling to get out of bed. did it for 10 days, taped it completely shut, and then switched and did 10 days of nasal breathing. His face cleared, his energy levels went up, his runs got back to the original time. Fascinating. So, and the data behind this, man, is significant. So reading that book, and that was right when I was like just starting Inhabit, I was like, the breathwork piece may be the missing link to our public health. So that became kind of one of my main things.
Dude, and isn't it so crazy how it's like the last thing you'd think of, because it's so,
Yeah.
you just take it for granted. It's like when I first got introduced to Wim, I was like, it's breathing. Like, how did he find this? You know, it's just right in front of us the whole time.
Exactly, man. 22,000 breaths we take every day. What I like to say is that not all breaths are created equal. So the way that you breathe has a macro significance on, over 30 trillion cells in the body. Every function, every cell, the way when we sleep and anxiety, performance, it's like the foundation. I think about it, Justin, like it's like we got the car before ever going to driver's ed, like really understanding how to power the vehicle. And once I understood those pieces, like all the stuff started to click. So when I do trainings with companies, whether I'm doing things on like confidence or resilience, or I train sales teams actually as well, and do some consulting there. And I always start with the breath, because it's like, if you then can stack all these other things on top of it. So I look at it as like kind of the foundation for just like human experience.
Okay. Yeah, this is wild, dude. And you are electric, bro. You got a ton of energy.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. These days, I've honestly never been happier, man. I feel really good.
That's fantastic, man. I'm very happy to hear that. It's
Appreciate
like,
that,
and so I'm interested. One thing on this guy that taped his mouth shut, and then taped his nose shut, and then taped his mouth shut. When did he say that we started breathing more in our mouths than through our noses?
He said it was within the last 1,000 to 2,000 years based on our diet. And I need to dig more. I forget in the book what it was specifically in the time period, but it was recent. It wasn't like this happened 10,000 years ago in the human story. It was recent. And the thing is that the dates on the skulls, he could see the anatomical changes in the structure. And there's more. You can even see this with kids, man. Like if you're having kids that are mouth breathing consistently, it actually can over time crowd the teeth, and it also creates cavities as well. So they're like, and I can get into a whole host of ailments around it, but yeah, man, who would have thunk, dude? Just literally taking a breath. Like,
it's so wild. So do you tape your mouth at night when you sleep?
I tape my mouth. Yeah, I actually just started using this company called Hostage Tape. And funny enough, dude, I got my it originally.
Hostage.
Yeah, they're dope, man. Check them out. So it's funny, dude, is what originally, so I read the book, I thought about this for a while, and just using like Scotch tape, and like, it's just not comfortable. So the patent that I believe it's patented, but the formula that they use for their tape for people, and like for you, if you have facial hair, like it doesn't rip, and it's really comfortable, and the stickiness is solid. So it started first with, I bought it for myself, and then also my dad, because my dad has been snoring as long and driving my mom apeshit for decades. Yeah. So I was like, because the thing is, man, is that the sleep component, when you're breathing through the nose, you're going to sleep more consistently through the night. You're going to get rid of, like, this is shown too, to have significance to sleep apnea. And when you have the mouth closed. So he literally, man, this is his second week of doing this. And he's sleeping through the night. He's not snoring anymore. My mom and him, and literally, like, she's not whacking him as much anymore. Yeah. Like, so that's good, I guess. And it's just funny because, like, they were like, we've dealt with this for decades, and a small 25-cent piece of tape is literally causing these improvements, and like, maybe like the relationship, like their sleep, like it's just fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's like the only, because like we can only smell through our nose, right? And we can only hear through our ears and only see through our eyes, but breathing, for some reason, we have an option.
We do. And that's like, not to get overly like philosophical to the evolutionary component of it, but it's like, it was a backup. Like, if the nose ever got rocked, it was used as a backup to breathe through. But what I always say to people is your mouth is for eating, your nose is for breathing. Like just keeping that really simple.
And so are you, like, when you made that switch, like, is it just second nature now that you're breathing through your nose? Because a lot of times people are clogged up. Like I know myself, for instance, like a lot of times I'm like, I can't smell anything. You know what I mean? My nose is typically somewhat clogged up, but isn't like one nostril like always clogged up, or is that just me?
I'm not, it could be you, man. I'm not sure, but yo, just keep, the thing is too, is keep doing that nasal breathing, because it does help to continue to open it up. And then there are exercises that you can do with the nose to create additional space, even for folks that have deviated septums. There's this guy, what's his name? Austin Yo, I want to say. I think that's his YouTube name. I'll send it to you. But he has a really good 3-minute video. It's got like maybe 1.5 million plays on it, like 750 comments, like huge, for basically helping people with deviated septums and clogged noses to create more space and airflow because of how important nasal breathing is. And I'm happy to go into why at any point if you want me to.
Oh yeah. Come on, man. The more information, the better.
Okay. All right. So do you want, we'll just start at the top here. Okay. So just looking at America for a second. So over 30% of Americans breathe exclusively through their mouths. And this is linked to, like we saw with this, with the study with James Nestor, chronic fatigue, higher stress levels, sleep apnea, certain types of allergies, cavities, the whole host of ailments. And the reason why is that what happens to that air when it comes into the mouth versus the nose is very different. So I'll give you the 3 components of how to create a perfect breath. So first step is nasal breathing, both in and out through the nose. Some people think it's just in through the nose and out through the mouth, but I'll get into that in a second. Why? So when you breathe in and out through the nose, you pressurize air. You get up to a 20% uptake of oxygen in the blood just by breathing in and out through the nose. So you think about, like, you know, young Lance with like trying to get his PEDs going on his bike, he was trying to get more oxygen in the blood, but the most natural way to do that is actually nasal breathing. So that's one component of it. The second thing that's fascinating about nasal breathing is the air is humidified and turned to 100% humidity. So it has additional moisture in it. So it makes it easier for the body to, it's also warm. So it makes it easier for the body to absorb that oxygen. There's the humidification, the pressurization, and then the last piece of this is the filtration. So if you're in New York City and you're just like mouth breathing up a storm on the subway, that is going directly into your lungs. Like whatever is in the air, pollutants, particles, there's no filtration. So versus the nose, you're not only filtering it, because you have like cilia in the nose, like, you know, the little hairs that help to block that those bit of foreign pollutants. But you also there was a study in 2019 that saw that people that breathe in and out through the nose, they release nitric oxide through the sinuses, which helps to combat viruses and bacteria. So just with the nose, you get those 3 crucial components to it. So that's step 1, in and out through the nose. The second piece of this is to breathe slowly. So speed is really important. And James actually talks about this in his book. A very well-researched number is 5.5 seconds on the inhale and exhale. And the reason why this is critical, man, is that you want to be able to get that air down to the lower parts of the lungs, which are more rich with blood because of gravity. So if you are breathing too quickly, you are offloading carbon dioxide before the oxygen has a chance to get down to the lower parts of the lungs. So speed is critical. And if you're up for it, if we do a little breathing here in a bit, I'll walk us through those 2 pieces. And then the last one, man, is the diaphragm. The body's dominant breathing muscle. It's located right under the lungs, for folks that don't know. And what's fascinating about this is that if you watch and I do this a lot with movement too, like if you ever see a little kid, like a 2 or 3-year-old squat, like Olympic form, like absolutely perfect without any training. And it's fascinating because the body has these, the blueprint for some of these key movements and motions, but life happens and we lose it. So similar with breathing, you watch a baby breathe, perfect diaphragmatic breathing, like no training at all. It goes right from the belly. But life happens, we get stressed, we get crusty, we get worried about how we're going to pay bills, relationships, all this stuff. And we start to breathe more from the upper chest, which is linked to the sympathetic nervous system, releasing unnecessary adrenaline and cortisol, versus the diaphragm, which stimulates the vagus nerve, which is the main component of the parasympathetic, reduces inflammation, lowers the heart rate, lowers your blood pressure, and just locks you in, man. Your focus is more on point. So yeah, man, those three components, nasal breathing in and out, slow is the way to go, 5.5 seconds on the inhale and exhale, and then the diaphragm opposed to the upper chest. And you stitch those together. All my research and subjective experience and trainings on this point to that's the best way to do it.
Okay, so I got two follow-up questions. So
Okay.
one, I'm thinking, when I exercise, like it's easy, it's simple sort of to breathe in through your nose. Like if you're trying to, if you're focusing on it and you're reminding yourself to do it during the day. But then you get into a situation where you're really like, you're playing basketball or whatever. Like, how does that, it seems more common for people to start breathing through their mouth in that situation.
Yes.
So how does that?
You're spot on. I love this question because it can be such a hack if you're able to train the body to breathe in and out through the nose, but it's hard. And I've recently, over the past few months, actually started doing this in interval training, like sprints. And you feel like you're struggling, dude. It's really hard to keep it through the nose. And then, but the reality is that even if you can do like a few breaths in through the nose and out through the nose, or in through the nose and out through the mouth, that's better than just mouth breathing. So it's like, think of it like a ramp. Like if you can just slowly start to integrate it and like just keep your mouth closed, even when you're training, man, like when I'm lifting, like I really focus on keeping my mouth closed, because I know, anatomically what's happening in my body, or scientifically, like I'm getting more oxygen in my blood. So that has a huge impact on performance.
Sure. And then would you say, like, is this, if you had to nail it down to one, because I know you said you were struggling with depression and anxiety, and like, so for people that have that, is like, would you start with the breath? It seems like the thing you're doing the most. So
dude, that is like, it's the foundation, because let's say then from there, you're going to start to go in and talk about things like self-awareness and reflection. It's very hard to, let's say that you're feeling, incredibly upset about something that's happened to you, and you're having a difficulty of letting go. You're up in your head. Have you taken time to actually process and put those thoughts down? And when you're stressed and you're anxious, it's a lot more difficult to move from that space. So by taking even a minute or two of these slow nasal diaphragmatic breaths, down regulating your nervous system, and then putting pen to pad, you have a bit more of a gateway into the subconscious. And especially, and I do this with my morning routines with people, getting into that, the alpha state of your brain waves, which are less beta and analytical. So there are ways you can use the breath to help you there as well. But so, yeah, I think, and granted, I'm not a clinical, psychiatrist or anything. So if folks do have those types of, symptoms, are really struggling with that, obviously seek counsel. But the baseline that can absolutely help you in the meantime is mastering your breath 100%.
Wow. Okay. That's sweet. So it's very exciting to talk to you, because I can tell that you freaking love this stuff, dude.
Dude, I do. So when we do our breathing thing, so you'll be 915 people that I've done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it right now.
Should we jump into it?
Yeah. What's this going to be like? Is this like, as far as like for the people that listen to it, they're just going to be hear me breathing?
No. So I'll do it myself, and I'll guide you.
Guide them too?
Yeah. I'm going to be guiding them as well. So everyone will be guided, even myself. It's going to be great. Let's go ahead and jump in. And for folks that are listening right now that may not have the luxury of sitting down or lying down for this experience, even if you're at the gym, you're driving a car, like definitely don't close your eyes, but you could still follow along with the breathing. It's a vibe with us. So if folks want to find a place where they can comfortably sit down or lie down, placing the feet comfortably on the ground if you're seated, sitting up nice and tall, placing your hands on your knees, and I invite you to close the eyes. Taking a slow inhale in through the nose and letting it out through the mouth. Again, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Last one here, and deeply in. And exhale. Continue breathing out as far as you can. And switch your breathing over to now breathing in and out through the nose. Drawing your attention to your feet making contact on the surface where you sit or lie. Slowly scanning up from your heels to your ankles, calves, backs of your legs, glutes, low back, mid back, upper back, eventually arriving at the top of the head. With this next out breath, I invite you to relax the shoulders away from the ears, gently allowing them to fall, just creating that additional space in your upper back and shoulders that get so tight throughout the day. Giving yourself agency to be fully present and here with your breathing, letting go of everything that's come before this moment, not at all concerned as to what's to come afterwards. Placing one hand on your chest and the other hand on your belly, I invite you to breathe slowly in and out through the nose, keeping the hand on your chest as still as you can while you draw air into the belly, into the diaphragm, and allow the right hand or the hand on your belly to rise and fall with each breath. A helpful tip is when you inhale, just sticking out your stomach a bit while you're breathing in. This will create that additional capacity in the lungs and diaphragm. Most adults are only accessing 30 to 40% of their lung capacity, so breath work is a very powerful modality for optimizing this function. And we're going to begin by taking 4 seconds on the inhale and exhale, and then moving up to 5 once we get more comfortable. And when we're breathing in, trying not to inhale too sharply, really managing that air from the beginning of the inhale to the end of the inhale. And then when we exhale, not breathing out too quickly so that we feel comfortable before starting another breath. So let's exhale this next breath here. And inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. And breathe in and out. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe in and out. Now we're going up to 5 and inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. And breathe in, out. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Last one here, and breathe in. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Continuing to breathe slowly in and out through the nose as you place your hands on your legs. Taking a moment to check in with yourself, noticing the quality of your mind, the quality of body. Perhaps you're a little bit more at ease, less tense, more relaxed. We take 22,000 breaths every day, but not all breaths are created equal. Slow, nasal, diaphragmatic breathing is one of the key components to optimizing our health. Breathe well. And drawing your awareness now back to the room or area where you currently reside, feeling the contact of your body on the surface where you sit or lie, hearing the sound of my voice. And in your own time, I invite you to slowly, mindfully open the eyes. Feel free to get a stretch in. That feels good. Hands overhead. Oh, there goes the back. Nice.
Yeah. Dude, I'm noticeably calmer.
Let's go.
Yeah. That was good, man. That was real good. So that's number 915, huh?
9:15, bro. It's an honor.
On the way to a mill.
Yeah, dude, just the quick 1000x, man. It'll come eventually. But yeah, man, I got my goals I look at every morning and night. I got my visualization. I'm trying to, or I will do, I want to eventually do like stadiums, man. I'm doing some music stuff with my brother, doing breathwork sound experiences. He's on the guitar. We're doing some production and live events. We just had our first one in New York, and yeah, I want to do like 50,000 person stadiums one day. Like that's my end goal.
Very cool. Heck yeah. Okay, man. Okay, there's so many questions I got now. So I want to hear about, so what does your morning routine consist of?
Yeah. So morning routine is wake up, drink 20 to 30 ounces of water. I meditate and do some breathing for about 10 minutes. And then I read my goals and do my visualization.
Is that goals for the day, or is that like goals for your life? Or
yeah, this is the big, like the what they call like a C-type goal. I don't know if you're familiar with Bob Proctor at all. And
okay, yeah, I've seen some clips of him.
Yeah. So this is like it's like the scare the shit out of you type goal, like the bigger one. Like that's the 1 million for me, like the long-term one. And I do with that, I read that goal. I have a financial goal, a monthly earning that I'm pushing to get towards. And yeah, I read those, and then I do my visualization of going to the stadium and seeing my parents and my brother in the front row, my brother next to me playing guitar, like even seeing like the seat numbers and the dust like on the ground and the sun on my face, adjusting my wireless mic. Like I just go to that space and live that.
Wow. Okay. That's sick, man. Okay. And then, so this whole thing probably, what is that, 20, 25 minutes in the morning routine?
It's like 15 to 20 minutes.
15 to 20 minutes. Okay. And is that where, like, do you coach people on like how to start morning routines?
Yeah.
When I like, if so, someone has no morning routine whatsoever, but what do you tell them? Do you say like, just do this one thing that you could stick to, and then we'll add on later? Or
so I love that question, man, because I think about this a lot. Like, so it takes like 66 days to create a habit, which I'm sure you're familiar with
Yeah.
the work that you do. So if you say to someone, be like, all right, man, like you're looking to make this change. Here's 17 things that you're gonna do, and do them in this order, and like, you know, forget about your kids or like your job. Like, so you just like the ramp, I think, is really important. So in the beginning, man, like sometimes people come to me and they like are in the morning, their routine looks like they get up, they you know, take out their phone, they start answering emails or like riffing on Instagram, and then they grab their cup of coffee without any water, and then they just get in the car and they're just being like whiplashed around by their day, like so just the fundamental things that I start with is just basically like wake up, reach for water instead of your phone, and then take, in that space that you're in, take 5 minutes to do some slow breathing or a counting meditation, is like how I typically teach people meditation in the beginning. And just even start there. If you have capacity afterwards to do a few minutes of journaling, because, you know, Socrates vibes, like know thyself, like the self-awareness thing, I think is massive, at least for my own state. Like when I really got into dark places, it was because there was absence of that. So having that self-reflection, even I do this with people all the time, like just right now I'm feeling, and just start that flow and do like a data dump. Like this is what's inside of me. These are things I'm struggling with. And you don't even have to reread it in the beginning. It's just that process of, in the morning, you're coming out of a dream state and you have access to the subconscious, but we immediately go into beta and start doing heady things opposed to accessing that capacity to like go inward.
Interesting. Okay. Now I got to ask you just a question this is something I've been fascinated with. Is for a long time, I would wake up and immediately, the first thing, I would have no morning routine whatsoever other than get to my desk and start writing music. Right. And now later in the day, I would find that I wasn't quite sure like what I accomplished. And when I listened back to the voice record memo or the, you know, GarageBand or Logic or whatever session, I was like, that's really cool. But so I'm trying to think like now, because like you're in that weird state for the next, when you get up for like an hour or so, is that a more creative state? And is that why I was kind of like not really remembering what I did first thing in the morning?
Yeah, dude, that's like, I believe one of the peak creativity times is the first few hours of the day. Like if you're doing creative work, and everybody's different, you know, feel this out for yourself. But just when we think about coming out of the dream state, where the brain waves are at, how that physiologically has an impact on like neurologic, like on the brain, like you're going to be accessing more of those creative juices. So yeah, the fact you were writing that information, and maybe you're even in like a bit of a sleepy state, because later on in the day, if you like weren't necessarily recalling everything that you did, like that means it wasn't as like heady, you know, like it was coming from a slightly different place, which is cool.
And then so when people, and like, dude, I'm not like talking crap about anybody, because I 100% have done this and still do this. When people wake up and the first thing they do is mess with their phone, or they're like, oh crap, man, I woke up, I don't want to start my damn day, let me just get on Instagram for a little while, right? You finish the night on Instagram, right? And now you're like waking up and you're like, you just scroll and just look at some stuff. What is that? I've noticed personally that when that happens, it's like you're making a choice in that moment to have a shitty day. It's like every time I do that, like I just don't get that much done during the day. Like it's like I'm wasting like my brain points or something. Like I only have like 100, you know, motivation points that day, and I just dropped like 30 of them in the first seconds.
Yeah.
What's going on with that?
Dude, I love this. So a few things come to mind. One, if you think about so the construction of these platforms, like if you think about this, like the social dilemma, I don't know if you've ever seen that before.
No,
around.
No, I haven't. I'm familiar with it, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's basically like if you watch that, you get a pretty deep understanding of the dopamine systems that are being like basically preyed on, like and how we're basically the product, and so these are literally designed to. They don't want you to go inward at all. They want everything to be externally focused to basically have you click. Like that's like the fundamental design. So when you think about that in your day, if in the beginning of the day you're going immediately external and you are looking at other people, perhaps comparing yourself, and you have that external lens, it makes you feel shittier about yourself. Like I think that's like just, and to start the day with that from a vibrational standpoint, and dude, I've been at that area, different parts of my life, 100%. And like, I think that decision of being like, no, like this is my like sacred time, and just keeping my phone flipped upside down in a way to the side of my bed is just like, that's the commitment that I've made. And I notice to your point, dude, a significant difference in my momentum of coming out of the first few hours of the day. And it's subtle, dude. It's like, but it's powerful, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm thinking like maybe just bring back the alarm clock.
Dude, let's throw it back, man. Let's get
don't even bring the phone in the bedroom.
Yeah, dude, like one of those like the one that like would vibrate and you have to like hit it, like let's bring it back.
Yeah, that could work. I'm actually, that's kind of interesting.
Oh wait, I have a question for you, bro.
Yeah.
Guess how many times a day, this is a study done on this, how many times a day we check our phone?
130.
Try basically 2.25x of that, like 300 times a day, bro.
I like 130 was a lot. I was like, oh my gosh.
And even like
time makes me sick too. Makes me sick.
Dude, they're super shiny toys. Like they're super fun to look at. Like, they got like lights and everything, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bad, man. It's like a lot of yeah. I mean, they're super smart people behind that are, working with, I don't know, whatever, scientists and whatever to get you addicted. It's just kind of like the food is I feel the same way about the food as I feel about the cell phone. It's being designed in a way to just keep you consuming. And
dude,
it's
absolutely
very difficult to break out of, and near impossible. I talk to some people who are like, dude, I just think I'm going to just be like fat forever. Like it's almost like a giving up. There's not enough pain, in their life for them to like make a change, and I feel like the phone can be consuming in that way as well, or in a way where you're like, I'm just always going to have like 8 hours of screen time a day because it's like, it feels safe. Like the pleasure is still outweighing the pain of missing out on your life.
That's really well said, man. I completely agree, dude. And that your seed oil post was really dope. I watched that. I didn't know that, and it's even with the McDonald's one too, man. That was super interesting about the fat that was previously used. And then what was it? It was like a guy had a heart attack, and then he like sued, and then got like a big change in the formula.
Yeah, he started an organization. It was like the Health Savers Association or something like that, and then paid for the research to be done, and they reached a certain conclusion. So it's interesting when you pay for the research to be done, you reach the conclusion that you would like.
It's so interesting. It's wild. I wonder if that shows up in any other.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, is that a common theme? I don't know.
I don't think we've ever seen that before.
No, this is new.
All right, so like, you're out of tech sales completely, and like, when did you make the jump?
So I made the jump November 2020. I still do consulting for tech companies, and I train sales teams, but I integrate with the sales training the methodology from Inhabit, talking about breath work, meditation, self-reflection, reconnecting with nature, mastering your morning routine. So I move the same themes in, so I still have connections to that world, but like working in that space, I wrapped that about 2.5 years ago.
And like, what was the point where you were like, because there's that jumping off, like scary situation, you know, that point. Well, what was
frightening.
That for you? Or were you like, oh, I'm fine, like this is like rolling, or you're like, maybe this isn't really rolling, but I just want to jump into it? Or
yeah, I'll take you exactly back to when it was. So I was at the time, so I had started in tech sales, and I was like, okay, I want to eventually come out, because I did entrepreneurial endeavors before I got into tech sales. I had a foreign currency startup with a few guys. I did like business development. They were doing like more of the risk management side, and then before that, I did lighting, industrial lighting sales. I had a startup with my dad on that. And then around that time, I was also doing like Lyft driving and like delivering food. Like, so I've done a lot of different things. But it was fascinating, man, was that I finally got to the position that I wanted to. It took me like 4 years, I think. 2 different companies. Started out as an SDR, got to like mid-market account executive position. Great salary and commission. Company was growing. They're still, I mean, this is a Handshake. I don't know if you ever heard of them before. They're like the LinkedIn for college students and career centers. They crushing it. And like, I was on an awesome path with them. Finally got to my position. I'm like, okay, I see my future. I want to get onto eventually the enterprise team and the strategic team. I'll be here for a few years. You know, they're looking to IPO in the next like 5 years. Like, I'm just going to ride this. And then I went up to Lapine, Oregon. And at that time, I had just gotten to this new position. It was like 2 months in. And I was like, oh no, I don't know if this is it. like damn it. Like, I thought it was just going to rain C notes from the heavens and I would be happy. Like, but it's, so I was dealing with that. And then I'm on this, I went camping. I was in Lapine, Oregon, and I was on this picnic table. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was meditating, and, dude, I just had like this visceral, vibratory experience that I was feeling that I needed to leave what I was doing. And I just started to think about my love and passion for meditation and breathing, and that where people are at with the pandemic. Like I was saying earlier, I was reading the statistics and I was like, dude, this is catastrophic. Like, and there's going to be echoing effects out of this for decades. Like, and people are still feeling it, and they will for a while. Like, it was really difficult. So I was like, okay, I came out of this meditation. And I was like, dude, I was like overwhelmed with joy at first, because I was like, I finally found this is the thing. Like, I know that this is the thing. And then you start to think logistically, all right, now I have to quit. I have to get trained in all these other things. I have to come up with a business. I have to not die so I make sure I have enough food. And then it took like 4 months from that moment where those whispers like eventually became like curdling streams. And then I eventually I quit. And I told my manager, I was out like 2 weeks. I just gave them notice, and it was like, I have to go do this. And my original idea was to create a new type of training facility. And I still will do this. I'm actually talking to some people now about it. Imagine like Equinox meets the rainforest in like a nature-driven fitness experience. Like, even the equipment is more woody and naturey. There are no mirrors. You go in into the facility. It's like a half opened ceiling, which gets sun exposure. Even if you, like, say you want to go in and have a smoothie, there's like a garden where you can pick like fruits and vegetables, bring them up to your own smoothie bar. So I created this whole world like for this thing, but it had all the tenets of breath work and like meditation. Like, there's this rad tree in the middle of it, and there are like lily pad platforms where people can meditate on. Like, and so all these different components to it. And I was like, okay, am I really about to create this space, raise money, and I'm like, yo, let's create this breathwork facility in the heart of COVID. Like, you want to invest? Like,
yeah.
so I switched up that, and then just did the business online, and just started there, man. But yeah, that's the origin.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. And then, so this is an app now. Is that
Yeah.
right?
So Yeah, so the programs that I do are both live trainings on Zoom and in person. I do retreats as well. But then I also, with my programs, whether that's sports teams, businesses, education systems, I have the app that has videos and assignments that go along with the live sessions. And then I have every day for free. If your listeners want to check this out, I do breath work and meditation at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard on Zoom, and that's like it's called Break to Breathe, and that's the community that I serve. And yeah, man, I'm just trying to build that. That's like one of the main focuses.
Oh, that's very cool. So sweet. Anyone should just sign in and hop on the Zoom?
Yeah, just there's a link, and I'll send that to you just to sign up, and then you get access to the Zoom, and then that's every day for 15 minutes. So I think that's helpful, like during the day, like i.e. break to breathe, like just break up your day, reset the body, and then come back in the mind, and then come back a little bit more fresh for the second half of your day, and just be in a better headspace.
Yeah, very cool, man. So it sounds like you work with people that are trying to be at peak performance, but this could also be just for anyone who's just trying to live a little bit better.
Absolutely. Quality of life is at the core of this too. So it's like we frame it around elevating mental health and peak performance, but if ultimately, like, if you're happy, like, you won at the game of life. So like I do believe that doing these things do help with joy and happiness and fulfillment. So that's one of the big components of it too.
And how much Wim Hof are you doing? Because I was on your Instagram, and I think you were in like a frozen lake or something like that with a buddy. Is that? I think that was right.
Yeah, you're right, dude. That was my brother Todd. I roped him into this with me.
Oh,
We got
brother. Okay.
yeah. So the cold exposure thing I love. So I don't do his Wim Hof's breathwork technique anymore. I actually developed my own breathwork technique that has a blend of, so the Wim Hof method is derived from what's known as Tumo, which is an ancient Tibetan deep breathing practice. And that basically involves taking a series of very deep breaths. Some folks do it just in through the mouth, out through the mouth, whatever, take the air in. And it's a very powerful way to, Wim Hof talks about it, resetting your hormonal system, elevating your immune system, giving you more energy, clarity of mind. So my technique is a hybrid between deep breathing like Wim Hof and Tumo, except where we differ is for the second half of the technique, where they just do a breath hold, and then they breathe in afterwards and hold that. After the breath hold, I go into a series of increasingly long nasal breaths that go from 6 seconds to 7 to 8. And I'll explain why. So when you do the deep breathing in the beginning, it really warms up the body. It helps to open the lungs. It makes the breathing component a lot easier. So when you go into these slow nasal breaths, you have more capacity for doing them at a slower pace. So you're teaching the body to go 6, 7, 8 seconds, which is well beyond most people breathe like 2 to 3 seconds in and out, like, and that can be generous. Some people are even a second and a half, like fast. So that the whole component is expansion of lung capacity, and then teaching the body to breathe habitually at a slower pace. And the hypothesis actually came from looking at the animal kingdom, because if you look at the giant tortoise, they live to be anywhere between 200 to 300 years old, sometimes even longer, and they breathe the slowest. So they breathe 3 times per minute. And zoologists and pulmonologists theorize that it could in fact be linked to the speed of their breath for how it impacts their metabolism and other health functions. And there's actually a chart, which is crazy, that shows life expectancy and speed of breath, where you have like giant tortoise up here 3 times per minute, and then dogs and monkeys at like 20 to 30 times per minute. And it's really interesting. So I'm still exploring that. And I'm actually going to run a study on my technique in the next few months. So yeah, definitely still in the exploratory phase, but early signs of training people and doing that myself, able to help slow down your breathing. And then you also just feel more relaxed and energized.
I'm wondering if it has anything to do with heart rate. Because I know,
For
like,
sure.
Wim's heart rate is like super low. It's like in the 40s or something, right? So I'm wondering if these animals that are breathing slower are slowing down their heart rate too.
Dude, shouts. Absolutely. That's a big part of it.
Yeah. And that guy, I love that dude. When I first, like, I got obsessed with him probably like 2016, I guess, when he was like starting to get big, I guess, and took his like 10-week course where you did all the breathing and then cold shower and then eventually ice bath and some like funky yoga stuff too. But his joy for life is just incredible. And then also like, I remember like what was really weird is how long you could hold your breath doing that for like 3 minutes plus or something like that. And then doing push-ups, you know what I mean? While not breathing, all that kind of wacky stuff he has you doing. But I remember that was probably like, looking back on it, taking that course is probably the best I felt like in a long, long time. Just from
Dude, that's so sick that you did that.
Yeah. It's freaking awesome, man. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, you were ahead of the game, bro.
Today because you were coming on. And I was like, right before we got on, I was like, I need to take a cold shower.
Dude, that's awesome. Dude, you're ahead of the game, man. 2016. That's early days. That's awesome. And dude, just before I forget to answer your question, when during the winter and even now, it's like, so the ice just melted. I'm in upstate New York right now, so I'm actually looking out at my lake, and I'm gonna go in after our call. And it's probably like low to mid 40s right now, so not as cold as it was. Literally, I went in a week ago and the ice was still there. So it was, even a little bit colder than that. But yeah, we use depending on what time of year, it's a combination of an auger and then a chainsaw. And we just cut the holes. And then me and my brother, dude, like he was just about it, man. And he came back also from California around the same time that I did. And we were going through some life transitions. And I was like, dude, let's just get in the lake, man. I had done it the past 2 years and only went in like a little bit, but I had cut the lake and I saw that it was like, possible from obviously women doing some training. And bro, we just got into like, we would go every day and we would be in there. And the highest that we got, we did over 5 minutes. That was our best session. But even, and this is from like Dr. Andrew Huberman, which I'm sure, 1 to 2 minutes per day, you can even get the effects of cold exposure. So, yeah.
Have you, man, that's wild. Where are you in upstate New York?
I'm near Lake George, like 20, 30 minutes north of Lake George.
Cool. Nice, man. That's sick. Yeah, I've seen some interesting things. I think Joe Rogan was talking about it, where this guy was getting into an ice bath and then doing resistance training. Yes. And he was like an older guy. Don't quote
me.
Bro,
I know exactly the video. Yeah, I know exactly the video. He was talking about his T levels going up,
like
right?
1200 or something like that.
Bro, exactly. And I just did a post on this last week, and I'm training tonight, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going to the lake first and then going to my resistance session and I used to do it post, like we're both athletes. Like that's what you were told. You train, you go hit the ice bath, and because of how it impacts the muscle adaptations on resistance training. And so post is actually negates some of the benefits. So that's why pre is preferred. So says Huberman, who's a lot smarter than me.
Right, so. Right. Well, I'm wondering what it's doing to your testosterone. Is it just literally just getting your balls cold? Like, is that what it? You know what I mean? Like, what's happening? That like your body's cold, and then your resistance training, and then your testosterone is spiking.
I don't have enough context on T levels, like what's happening with testosterone. I know that was. I think that came out like 2 months ago, and that was the first thing that I saw that was talking about that. And then Huberman put out his article about it. So yeah, I think it requires some more digging. But from so you have dopamine levels go up, epinephrine, which is another molecule that's increased. The happiness molecule goes up. Metabolism, brown fat. They've looked at that, which is super interesting. And just, dude, this is not necessarily quantifiable, but just clarity of mind. Like even say with your cold shower, like how did you feel when you
Oh,
got out?
so much better. Energized.
Sick.
And you didn't want to do it. So then there's like, you know what I mean? Because you never really want to get cold.
Bro, dude, when it's in the middle of winter, when it was like in the teens, and me and my brother would be looking outside in the snow, and we have our little sled and our our bathing suit, and like it's like 4 o'clock, the sun's about to go down. We were working all day. We look at each other, we're like, here we go, dude.
Yeah, this is gonna suck.
And we got our sledgehammer to go and break the piece that like from the other day, and it's like, but then when you come out, you're like, you just feel a little accomplished. There's something primitive about it, you know, some primal energy.
Oh, 100%. I have an uncle that lives in upstate New York, and he has a little pond, and he jumps in the pond. He's like 65. He jumps in the pond. I'm like, dude, you're like the Wim Hof of upstate New York.
Dude,
Like,
next
like
winter, man.
My whole body. He's like, I get out and I feel like I'm 25 again.
It's so sick, dude. Next winter, man, we got to collab. If he's in upstate New York, man, I gotta have him come over. I'll go check out his pond.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's like, it's interesting. We're talking about like a lot of like, you know, anecdotally, just the way you feel, like when you start doing some of this stuff. And what I find is interesting, and something that I've been like bogged down with a little bit, is that like people are always obsessed with the studies and like the science and all of that stuff. And I'm like, that is all very, very important, but they can be, you know, manipulated, like we said earlier. But what I find really super interesting is like the anecdotal stories that then lead to what the science tells us. And like with Wim, when Wim was just saying like, you know, this stuff works, it does X, Y, and Z, and they injected him with an endotoxin or whatever, right? And then he taught other people how to do it.
Bro, that study just blew my mind. That was one of the early, not to cut you off, but that was when I read that shit. It was the E. coli thing, and I was like, dude, the fact that he came back, I think it was like 6 weeks, taught another group of 10 people, and he was like, boom, like it's so sick.
Changed the name of the immune system from the autoimmune system to the immune system, because it's not, you know, you can control it. Like, you know, this is just amazing. Like, I feel like we don't rely on intuition enough. We're always like looking to, you know, our phones or whatever for like the answer. Like Google is like God, right? You're like looking to Google something, and like Google will tell me or YouTube will tell me, but it's just like, look around, like use your intuition. You know what I mean? How do you feel after eating something? How do you feel after doing a workout or getting in the cold?
Dude, no, that's so well said, man. Because we can be so heady, you know, really just relying on that prefrontal cortex for everything. But we're complex beings, man. You know, we don't. Sometimes we need that rational side to be like, okay, I'll do this. And I think without that, having the ego and prefrontal, like we'd be smoked. Like we absolutely have to have that. But to your point, and that's why I have people when they come out of whether it's a meditation, training session, breath work, like just having them go inward to notice the quality of mind and body and be like, just where are you at? Like notice whatever you notice, because whatever the science says, like I'll use that as a way to give you some context, but what you feel, man, like that's you, you know, like that's not me. Like that's coming to you on your own.
Yeah, 100%, man. 100%. Obviously I post a lot about diet, and people are it's very polarizing. And everyone has their own opinion on it, but I'm just like, you know, you got to pay attention to how you feel more than, you know, what other people are telling you, like how to eat.
Yeah, dude. Selfishly, I just want to ask you a question. So, dude, I'm fascinated with the carnivore diet.
Yeah,
like, do you think we can spend just like a few minutes jamming on that for a second?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Dude, so like when you think about some of the benefits that you've seen for yourself, and like when you work with your clients, like what have you noticed by having people switch over from going to a carnivore diet?
Dude, there's just so many numerous benefits. Okay, so one would be, what I'm noticing is like everyone's addicted to food. Everyone has a food addiction. That's what I'm noticing from this. And because of that, it's very hard to say that there's like no bad foods, or like you can, you can eat kind of like whatever you want. As long as you have it sort of dialed in. I think for a lot of people, because 72% of people are obese or overweight, that just doesn't work. And I was talking to a guy that I'm working with right now, and he's like, dude, and we came to this together where we're like, we have to treat this like AA. This isn't like, oh, I eat well all week and then Friday night's pizza night, or Friday night I just do a little Coke and throw back a couple of beers. You know what I mean? Like for this person's personality and the addictive tendencies and the ability to just become, morbidly obese, that you really need to cut all of this stuff out. Because just like our phone is designed to keep us inside Instagram, the Doritos and the Pringles are literally Pringles, dude. Once you pop, what's the tagline of the Pringles?
Once you pop, you don't stop. Is that what it is, or something?
You can't stop, dude. They know you're gonna stop. You can't eat you're gonna eat the whole thing. That's what they're telling you. Right?
Yeah, and they're letting you know before you even pop that thing.
Yeah. Hey, before you pop it, you're about to
heads up.
Like 700 calories. Yeah, so that's kind of like that's not like a benefit. I mean, that's a benefit of the diet, is like removing all of that stuff and eating a more like species or ancestrally appropriate diet, and then just removing all of the BS. I've also seen a lot of people, just come off of like gut issues. Like everyone's got like some sort of IBS, some sort of like bloating, some sort of like constipation or diarrhea or something going on like that. And I've noticed that the carnivore diet can absolutely eliminate that. And I don't know exactly if there's that the meat is somehow just so special. I think it's more just the removal of some of the other things in people's diets. Because like, what's frustrating about diet is that like I started, and like you go gluten-free. It's like kind of like the first thing you do for a lot of people to like, I want to feel a little bit better. I don't know why I feel this way. You go gluten-free, but you can buy gluten-free pizza. You can buy gluten-free pancakes. You can buy gluten-free whatever with a bunch of seed oils in it and just like made up junk. And then you could even go as far as like keto. And then you buy like a little keto protein bar, and it's got vegetable oil in it. It's got, I don't know, maltodextrin. It's got all this like things that you can't even pronounce, right? But it's technically keto. So like what I like about the carnivore diet is it just eliminates everything. It's just meat. It's just protein and fat, basically. So it's like I don't know. It's just like an extreme keto diet is really what it is, or extreme elimination diet. But I do think for most people, they could just benefit by doing like 80% coming from protein, coming from meat, and then having whatever, their fruit and vegetables or whatever on the side is typically fine for like the average person. I do think where people have more serious issues, like, sometimes it's serious depression or autoimmune or whatever, they have to get rid of everything to start really feeling better.
Wow. Dude, so interesting. And then what about from a mental, well, two components. So I think about like, how do you feel like mentally, and then also performance wise? Like I see you've been getting after like with your training, like how do you feel? Because sometimes I have never done strict carnivore. I definitely have like a big focus on eating meat and getting enough protein because I'm doing a lot of training right now. But like, do you ever feel like your energy levels in the gym because you're not getting those carbs? I feel like that could be like a misconception with this. How are your energy levels?
Yeah, that's a great question. And everyone has the same, like, we're always told like you need carbs, I guess, to build muscle. I think if I really wanted to get like big, it would be way easier to just add some carbs, because I don't have any carbs on me, or I'm not taking in any carbs right now. But eventually, it's really carbs are just to like get your glucose levels up. And then eventually with the carnivore diet, your body just makes its own glucose. So it kind of like switches. There's like a system that kind of switches after a little while. There is a transition period. So like the first couple, first few weeks, the first couple months, like people might not feel that great. They might have, it could be anything. It'd just be coming off of carbohydrates, honestly, is probably what they're feeling. It could be things like, oxalate dumping, which is like, certain vegetables have oxalates and they kind of just store up in your system. And then, so you could feel poorly after coming off of those. But me personally in the gym, I've noticed that my recovery is pretty good and my strength keeps going up. So I'm on like a progressive overload sort of system right now, and I'm not missing the carbohydrates. I'm not against like bringing them back. Like it's not like maybe I'll eat this way for the rest of my life. Maybe I won't. But for right now in this moment, like this is what is kicking ass for me, is removing depression, removing anxiety, arthritis, dude. I think that's the biggest thing. I used to be in pain like 5-6 years ago from like playing basketball, and I would just ruin my body, dude, because it was like, it brought me so much joy to go and play basketball, and I didn't have a lot of joy in my life, and I was like, I don't care that this ruined, like I couldn't barely walk up the stairs after playing a game of basketball. And now I'm like, I never, like my joints and everything, like I just feel good. Like, no, it's very low inflammation diet. I guess that's probably why that's happening. So
wow, man, incredible.
Yeah, there's a bunch of fun stuff with it, man. I love it. But I'm glad to see like you're pretty much on a diet, I guess, that I would suggest to the average person is just at least make sure you're getting your protein in.
Dude, definitely. And that is, I feel like the vast majority of people are significantly eating less protein than they should.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable, dude. Unbelievable. People will send me their like Fitbit or their like MyFitnessPal like logins or whatever, and then you're looking at it and you're like, oh my God, it's like all carbohydrate.
Yeah, like 38 grams of protein.
Yes.
Like 180 pound like grown man. I'm like, yeah, dude. And it's just a knowledge thing. It's just like, and what's so funny is like how that goes down is you start to try, like you need the awareness. So even doing it for 1 week and being like, okay, you have like, for me, I know that my calories fall and even fall between 2,600 and 2,800 roughly, and then minimum 150 to 180 grams, sometimes more, of protein. And like, that's where I'm like, I'm good if it's in that space.
Yes.
But like, there are even days like when I would track it, like you start to be like, wow, like this was actually way more one day, and I had significantly less, because you're just, you're working, you grab something, it's like, I think everybody should go through that experience of tracking their food for a little bit, so they know like what's actually up and what they're eating. Because I feel like so much of it is unconscious, right?
Yeah. If you can't track it, you can't measure it. You're just guessing. You don't really know what's going on. And one thing that drives me bananas, man, is like when you go out to eat, the average person's, like the average plate is all junk. It's like just all carbohydrate. Even if you order like a piece of chicken or a piece of steak, it's usually this little 5-6 ounce little thing, and then the rice is piled up, and the vegetables are piled up, or like whatever else is just piled up, and there's just the cheapest food that they can give you for the highest cost, because you ordered a 6-ounce piece of chicken or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's just, the macros are just totally jacked up. I think my wife had like pho, like chicken pho or something like that, and she couldn't even find the chicken in it. And I was like looking at everyone's plate, and I was like, just couldn't believe like the lack of protein that is being served.
Wild.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Well, let's see. I appreciate you asking about the diet. It's fun to talk about.
Dude, definitely, man. I've been following your stuff, dude. I love what you're putting out. Like I said to you initially when I pinged you, it's dope.
Yeah, thank you, man. Well, I want to I know you have to jump in this lake. But you're excited about doing it.
If I could take you guys with me, man, I would, dude.
Yeah,
Just totally soak my MacBook. Just
man.
things done, dude.
So I wanted to ask you, obviously, I want to find out where, you know, people can get in contact with you. But I know one thing that we did want to mention is like the decline in mental health. We sort of touched on this in the beginning of the podcast, but like, what do you attribute that to? And, you know, what can we do about that?
I'm really glad you brought this up, man. So when we zoom out for a second and just being like really objective about where we're at, this is the largest mental health crisis that we've ever faced in humanity. Like as long as humans go back, like at least to our knowledge, people have never struggled at this level. You know, some statistics: the number one killer of men under 50 in the UK is suicide. If you look at the US, and the CDC just put out their youth risk survey, and that showed us that in 2021, they ran it from 2011 to 2021, and then they put out the study 2 years later. So it just came out in February. Over 30% of teenage girls seriously considered suicide towards the tail end of that, and that's up 60% from 10 years ago. And the amount of children, yeah, horrific, bro. The amount of children that are on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication, I've just have heard, even with the clubs I'm working with now and education systems, attempted suicides. Like it's so palpable and I see it so much. It's like beyond even the statistical side of it. It's like, this is like, I'm just seeing it actually happen, which is like two parts to it. One, breaks my heart. I'm an empath. Like I deeply feel other people's pain. And then also the second piece is the like motivation and drive about why I'm like, I live, I think I have air in my lungs, is like to really push this message right now. Because it's just what I'm seeing. It's like people desperately need it. And it's not if it's done the right way with the right tools and message, it's not a huge shift. It's like having somebody learn how to breathe and then do it throughout the day, taking 60 seconds, and just, it can change your life. And I just know that piece of it, the breathing side, was very helpful on top of some of the other things that we've spoken about, with whether it's self-awareness, meditation, proper diet, getting enough sunlight, like just fundamentally that, dude. There's so much good information around not only the vitamin D levels, but just thinking about how light has impacted the human story. So if you go back, let's see, light bulb, like within the last like 125, 130 years, whenever it was that light bulb was first created, it changes the human story because it gives people a choice then to stay up, and not be driven beyond like the candles and stuff, like not be driven by the sun. And so this impacts us in a few ways. One being that when we're staying up later, so that changes things. Especially with phones, you're getting blue light into the eyes, which, as you know, tricks the body into thinking that it's daytime, inhibits the production of melatonin, so it messes with our sleep. So that sun is a key part of our circadian rhythm. So by getting that in the morning and getting that before you go to bed, like on sunset, it's basically telling the body what to do. Huberman put out some really rad information about how if you're able to get sunlight, and I do this when I wake up as well, after I meditate, I go outside and I sit, and getting that sunlight into the eyes, what it does, not looking directly at the sun, but even having that sun exposure, it does two things. One is that it creates an onset of adrenaline that gets released into the system. So it promotes alertness and wakefulness, which is massive. So like getting sun in the morning, you'll have more energy. And the second part is it creates the onset for melatonin release for later in the day. So it tells the body later than it will release at nighttime. So it helps. It's a guiding force. So it's just simple stuff like that, man. I think the Inhabit method, like, it encompasses a lot of those components, and that's why when I started really digging into it and design it, I'm like, it can't just be breathing, it can't just be exercise, it can't just be diet. Like, it has to be. And I know you think about things holistically as well. It's like the whole human, the whole schedule throughout the day. Like,
Mm.
what are you doing with your time? And I think that there are simple ways that we can start to roll that out. And so that's where I feel a lot of deep passion working in the education systems, because I think long term, that's where I can make the most impact, versus just working with, people that, like, business executives that are in their 50s, they're like, candidly, like, habitually, like, they're a little bit more set, versus a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old that's developing. You can get this stuff in then, so that by the time that real stress comes in, they actually have tools, opposed to when I went through my shit. I was 20, 21, and I had to then go figure this stuff out while I was really struggling. And it's like, can we be like maybe more proactive, I think.
Oh my gosh, man, those statistics are insane.
Bro, wild. And you're, dude, 72% of people are obese. Like, I did not see that. Is that globally, or is that in America?
No, in America, it's or overweight. I think it's 72% are obese or overweight. I think 30% or 35% are obese. So then the rest are overweight. So like the average person, like I had a friend that went to the doctor recently, and the doctor said, well, you're obese, and he's like, I know, it sucks. Like, it's the worst thing. And she's like, yeah, but you're kind of like every other American. So she's like, you can make the decision whether or not to, like, better yourself, but she's like, you just like an average person. And it was like,
wow, dude,
it's freaking awful. And then she suggested
that's so disheartening.
he watch Jordan Peterson talk about the carnivore diet. So she was actually pretty cool diet.
Nice.
And then suggested Huberman too, which is pretty cool. So
that's awesome.
Old Russian.
Mad respect. Yeah, mad respect for both those guys.
Yeah. Well, sick, man. Dude, I really, really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much.
Bro, me too. How long are you going for? Like hour 15, hour 20?
I thought it was like 30 minutes, dude. And I checked and I was like, oh no, we started at like 5:30. So yeah, it's about an hour and a half.
Amazing. It flew by, man. It's so great to chat with you, dude. I feel like there's so much more to discuss. And also, dude, I want you to come on my podcast. That would be sick. The Inhabit podcast. I'd love to interview you, man, and like hear your story and continue to learn from you around all things nutrition, wellness, fitness. Let's vibe. So yeah, I'll hit you up after, and we'll get you on for a date.
Okay, awesome, man. I'm all about it. And where can people find you?
Yeah, so a few places. So at Inhabit Mind Body is my Instagram and TikTok. So you can reach me there. You can email me at Sean, so SEAN at inhabitmindbody.com. And then for my website, it's inhabitmindbody.com. And then I'll send you the link for Break to Breathe. If folks just want like they vibed with some of the content that I talked about and the exercise, come every day, man. It's free. We got a rad group of people that come and just break up their day with some like chill breathing. And it seems like it's helping people. So I like it.
Dude, I like that a lot. That's very cool. Well, thanks, Sean.
Totally.